It's $1 million game. This guy's V-pipping almost 70. And those stats are brought to you by Polymarket. If you want to bet on the election, if you want to bet on, is Alan Keating going to V-pip 70 on Friday? Are we going to see a $3 million pot on Friday? Get in there, polymarket.com.
In this episode of Weekly Poker Hand, we're taking a look at a spot from the $500, $1,000, $2,000 big blind ante game on Hustler Casino Live. Today we are playing about $300,000 deep. Peter limps under the gun with the pocket sevens, which is perfectly fine and reasonable. Action Dan in the hijack raises it up to $6,000 with the ace-8 offsuit. This may seem like a perfectly fine, reasonable play, but if Peter is limping under the gun with a reasonable range of pairs, suited connectors, high cards, some super nuts, I really do not like raising with the ace-8 offsuit, and instead I would simply fold it. That may seem nitty. That's probably going to be the best play in the spot, although if you think he is limping a lot of junk like the 9-6 offsuit or Jack-4 offsuit for fun, then sure, raise it up to $6,000 with the ace-8. Over on to Tom Dwan on the button. He opts to call with the 9-7 of hearts, which is a fine play if you don't expect Peter to limp and then re-raise all that often. Apparently he does not. Tom Dwan calls. Peter calls with the pocket sevens. Let's head to the flop.
Oh, no. Tom Dwan. Night.
Did you have a wardrobe thing? Just put on a sweater. Mike, did you bring your other black t-shirt?
Oh, no, durrrr. I think that 300K might vanish. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Flop is a wild one. King of clubs, 9 of spades, 7 of clubs, giving Peter bottom set and Tom Dwan bottom 2 pair. Tom Dwan's probably going to get stacked. Peter, out of position, checks. Action Dan, with the random 8 of clubs, decides to bet $12,000 into the $21,000 pot. And, I mean, look, you should have some bluffs when you're betting in a lot of scenarios, but I think multi-way on a board that should connect pretty well with both opponents' ranges because they're going to have random high cards and middle cards. I think I would just check this one and fold. The 8 of clubs is just not that relevant. He does go $12,000 though. Tom Dwan, in position, opts to bump it up kind of big to $46,000, which I think is fine and good. This is a spot where you certainly want to raise your hands that are almost always good but vulnerable to being outdrawn, and bottom 2 pair is a great candidate for that because a lot of Action Dan's betting range is going to be hands containing a king or some sort of flush or straight draw, all of which have pretty good equity against the 9-7, even though the 9-7 is going to be ahead the vast majority of the time. Not this time, though, because Peter has him absolutely crushed. Tom Dwan makes it $46,000. Let's see how Peter proceeds with the bottom set.
Only calls. So if a club rolls off, maybe durrrr gets saved. Durrrr doesn't know it, but he's rooting for like the queen of clubs to roll off.
Interestingly enough, Peter decides to slow play, and I think this is a pretty big mistake because from out of position, you cannot really guarantee all the money is going to get into the pot on the turn and or river because you're going to check the turn pretty much every time, and then Tom Dwan's going to check it back, especially if the turn is bad for whatever his hand is. And on top of that, when it goes bet and raise on the flop, someone's very likely to have either a very good made hand, like Tom Dwan has with bottom 2 pair that's just never going to fold, or a very good draw, like Jack 10 of clubs, or even Jack 10 with 1 club. So this is a spot where I definitely think Peter should put in the raise with a very polarized range of his high equity draws, like nut flush draws or gut shots with a flush draw, or open-ended with a flush draw, and also with his very strong made hands that are vulnerable to being outdrawn, which at this point are going to be pretty much all hands 2-pair and better that he could have in his range. That said, he just calls. Action Dan decides the 8 of clubs is no good. Let's head to the turn.
Jack 10 does fill, but it might not be enough. I mean, Jack 10, King Queen, yeah, but there's also just so many other hands. 10-8 clubs. We're playing 2 pots. I mean, yeah, you can check back sometimes here, but I don't think this ends well. Nice check back.
The turn is the Queen of Hearts, and Peter checks with his bottom set, as I would expect him to with his entire range. And now Tom Dwan has to decide if he is going to continue betting for protection. And he does not. He opts to check it back. This may seem surprising to some of you, but if you consider the range of hands that Peter will call a $46,000 flop raise with, it's going to be hands like slow played sets. It's going to be hands like draws that he doesn't want to raising it in, like perhaps Jack 10, which was a double gut shot on the flop, and maybe some hands like King Queen that he does not necessarily want to raise on the flop, but thinks they're probably okay against the Action Dan bet and the Tom raise. And a lot of those hands have 9-7 in pretty bad shape. Also, if he does have a hand like King Jack, he may not even call a turn bet. So, while there is a lot of merit in betting for protection against the various draws, this is a spot where Tom is going to be drawing thin or dead, as he actually is in this scenario. So, Tom recognizes this queen is not particularly great for him. He lets it go check, check, and, well, now he may not even get stacked. Let's head to the river.
Oof, and disaster avoided for durrrr. Little does he know. And honestly, I would like to see Peter check this river. If durrrr has a draw, he's going to bet. If durrrr has a king, he's going to bet. Checking this river is real nice with Peter's hand. But in this exact situation, durrrr is now thinking, did he miss a draw?
The river is the King of Diamonds, a card that could save Tom Dwan even more money. Peter goes for a $70,000 bet. Let's see what Tom does.
Oh, sorry. My chips fell forward. I was like putting them on top of each other, and no, I was putting them on top of each other, and they fell in.
Tom Dwan's giving this one a lot of thought. Do you think he's going to fold, call, or raise? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, do me a favor. Please click the like and subscribe button.
I think I'm calling anyway, but I wanted a second to think about it. Full house.
266,000 going to Peter, and durrrr back down to roughly 200K.
I thought it was a bad run out. It was a good run out.
You thought it was a good run out?
No, I thought it was a bad run out. I had 2 pair.
2 pair. Worst runouts for him.
Yeah, I just snapped the flop.
After a lot of thought, Tom decides to give this a call, primarily because he's getting pretty good pot odds. That said, I think in this scenario, the preferable play would actually be to fold or raise all in. folding makes a whole lot of sense, right? Because you don't beat anything except for busted draws. But I think raising all in actually makes a lot of sense too. Now, not after Tom acts super sad and whatnot, but I think this is a spot where if Tom kept a good poker face and then put it all in, it looks a lot like Tom has a nut hand or just a king. That's probably also good a lot of the time. Also, if you consider Peter's small betting range on the river, usually that's not going to contain too many super nut hands like a full house. Now, this time it does, and Tom would have ended up losing all of his money. But in general, when you're trying to find bluffs, you want to block your opponent's super nut hands. And in this scenario, super nut hands would be pocket nines and pocket sevens. And notice, Tom Dwan has a blocker to both of those. It turns out, in scenarios like this, bottom two pair that got counterfeited are often the best bluffing candidates. Because if Peter is going for a thinnish value bet with something like queen of clubs, jack of clubs, well, he's going to fold to the all-in a large chunk of the time, right? And even if he does have a straight in this scenario, he may actually find a fold because he loses to all the full houses. That said, Tom Dwan decides to call because he does beat some bluffs, and this time he has shown the effective nuts. I'll talk to you next time.